I remember 12 years old, my mom wanted to move out of that neighborhood because it was so rough and it's so tough. And I got involved in some crazy stuff just growing up in that environment. It's kind of hard not to kind of get involved sometimes. So growing up was a little bit difficult with those challenges of being surrounded by gangs and drugs and kids carrying guns to school, my friends carrying guns to school. I had to build up this persona, the stronger persona of me, I'm tough, so people wouldn't mess with me. It shaped who I am today. And then I get a call. They're like, hey, the Saban people want to meet you. Let's rock it! Isn't that the Phenomena show that's going on right now, that it's all over? I'm watching these kids on TV and they can't even go to the mall. They can't even go to Disneyland. They're getting mobbed at Universal City, everywhere, auditioning for that. This is where it all started for me. Well, I didn't really know what it meant. I for sure would never imagine we were gonna end up here where we're at now. This is the thing, it's gonna get, so how can I say this? Let me see. There might be some parts where it's I'm just gonna keep it real. I just wanna show people that, I'm a human being. I'm not perfect, behind all this. Originally, I'm a Kaiser baby. I was born at Kaiser on Sunset. Grew up over on Gramercy and Melrose, some apartments down there. Grew up in Los Angeles, just normal, humble beginnings in a very, very humble apartment. But I had everything I wanted, everything I needed. I had it. I had family, I had love, I had my mom. I grew up with my mama, Maria Velasco, which I love to death. My dad, Rogelio Velasco, I'm a junior. I guess talent name is Roger, but my legal name is Rogelio. And, just grew up like a regular kid. Just, wanting to grow up and play and have fun. And, it was following superheroes since I was in diapers, really, literally. I have pictures of myself with running around with towels wrapped around my neck and jumping from couch to couch thinking I was Superman. And giving my mom a hard time. I'm one of 3 siblings and 6 years apart. So for a while, it was just me, and it was great growing up in that environment with so much love. My parents have been together for a long time. They came to this country at the age of 21. Actually, 20. I was born when they were 21. We eventually moved over to Bell Gardens. We were still renting in Bell Gardens, but we were renting a house. It was a triplex. So it was my cousins in the back, my uncles in the back. We were in the middle, and my other cousins in the front. So we grew up literally 3 of my cousins were very similar age, and we all came up together in the Bell Gardens area. And it was great, it was awesome because I had my own place now. We had our own house and whatnot, and it felt like, we were starting our life the right way. But, I did land in at that time, Bell Gardens was a little bit of a troubled neighborhood. So growing up was a little bit difficult with those challenges of, being surrounded by gangs and drugs and, fights, and it shaped who I am today. Going through these experiences growing up in those cities, I believe that it taught me a lot. It taught me a lot of stuff that you can't learn anywhere else outside. Kind of how can I say, streets, what do you call it? Streetwise, that town shaped me up, you know, it roughed me up. But it was fun. We used to have a lot of fun with my cousins. Grew up around a lot of family. My grandfather was around a lot. And you know, 6 years later, you know, here comes my sister. She was born Marisol Velasco, you know. She came into the picture, and all of a sudden, she was the center of attention, right? Of course, this beautiful girl around a bunch of boys, and she, you know, was the favorite, and we paraded her and everything, and it was amazing. So my sister was born, and then my brother was born a couple years later, Carlos Velasco. The irony of that, right? Carlos Velasco. I played Carlos on the show, and I really have a brother named Carlos. But yeah, that's my childhood was around the Los Angeles area, into the Bell Gardens area, and then eventually we went over to SouthGate. But yeah, that's kind of where I came from. My dad wasn't really like a go-getter. My mom has always been a go-getter. My mom has always instilled crazy principles in me. I remember 12 years old, you know, my mom wanted to move out of that neighborhood because it was so rough and it's so tough, and I got involved in some crazy stuff in high school. You know, I just growing up in that environment, you know, it's kind of hard not to kind of get involved sometimes. Kids trying to like pick on you. You know, all my life I've been considered like a pretty boy, you know, and that has always been, well, it was at the beginning a challenge growing up because, of course, the pretty boy people pick on and they talk about and whatever. So I had to build up this like persona, like the stronger persona of me, like I'm tough, you know, so people wouldn't mess with me. We had to run out of that town. We had to get my mom, an emergency got me out of that town. I remember very clearly at the age of 12, her and I went and we started house shopping, and I'm 12 years old and I'm playing my dad's role because my dad was stubborn and he wanted to get out of that city. He just didn't want to get out of his comfort zone. And my mom had to get me out of that town because it got a little too crazy with people trying to like, you know, jump me. Kids carrying guns to school. My friends carrying guns to school. I carried a gun to school one day. I kind of started hanging out with like a party crew? I forgot what it was called, but it was just guys going out, looking, you know, dressing up, looking good, pursuing the girls, right? But it was kind of cliquey, not gangbanger type or none of that. They used to call us like pretty boys or whatever. You know, we used to like hang out, and one of the guys got into trouble with one of the gang members in the local school. So then when they started seeing me affiliated with hanging out with these group of guys, which, by the way, a lot of them are great guys nowadays. They have businesses and stuff. But back then, you know, I got associated with a group of people that had trouble with these people, and all of a sudden, you know, they would pick on me, I'd fights, friends getting shot. So going to school for me was like, in Bell Gardens, was scary. I was scared for my life, for sure, no doubt. I mean, so a lot of times I had to do what I had to do. And it wasn't because I'm gonna do something with that gun, it's because I wanna protect myself, you know? And I've always been a good kid. I've always played sports. I was raised by two awesome parents. I didn't, you know, grow up being a troublemaker or whatnot. I just got involved with the wrong people, and my mom had to pull me out of that school. So one day, just a regular day, getting ready to go to school, you know, getting ready, and I'm off to school. My mom's off. Where are you going? I said, I'm going to school. She's just like, no, you're not. You don't go to that school anymore. I'm like, what are you talking about? She says, yeah, I went yesterday, and I checked you out. I'm like, huh? And I was so upset because it was my group of friends. It was my high school. And then all of a sudden, my mom had pulled me out of that school because of everything that was going on. And then it was time for me to go to SouthGate High. And I lived in a part of SouthGate that was closer to the Watts area. So it was literally like Watts. It was like nice part of SouthGate and then like the hood. That's where I grew up, right? And Southgate would not let me in. You belong to Jordan High School. Jordan High School is in Watts. So my mom had an experience in Vallerte, so she's like, there's no way my kid's gonna go to Watts, considering everything that we just experienced over here. So I got bused. I started getting shipped out to Pacific Palisades, inner city kid, Latino, Mexican kid going to Pacific Palisades over, by the beach and whatnot. And it was great to go to school over there, but man, how much, I'd jump on the bus at 6 a.m. and I'd get home at 6 p.m. I had no time for myself. So eventually I got into Southgate. And by the time I got into Southgate High, I was kind of over it, man. Like, okay, here goes another high school. Which was my high school. I felt like I didn't have a high school. I just wanted to get through school and get out and just go out and start my life. As a matter of fact, the moment I was able to, I did it. I was one of those students where, I think this is where it all started for me. It's so funny. My aunt has been my Aunt Laura Vasquez. This is what you don't know. My Aunt Laura Vasquez has been very instrumental in the shaping of my life. At the age of 15, she got me a job to work with her. And I used to take the bus, anything to get out of school early, right? And go work. And I'd take the bus to school to work. And I used to go work for this lawyer. I used to sit there and pound the phones at the age of 15. Boom, 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 pound the phone. They trained me. And I used to bring clients in that needed to do a bankruptcy 7 or chapter 13. And every client that would come in, I would make X amount of dollars, which for a 15-year-old was a lot of money. And then they would come in and be like, this is Roger? This is the person I spoke to over the phone? No way. And so, I started making money and I started learning how to generate. And at that moment, it's when I was like, okay, I want to create, I want to get out there. Because that job eventually took off, and then I didn't know what to do. Nobody would hire me with that type of pay anymore. So I just started going out there, looking for something else. Got out of high school, and I, 2 things. I said I need to get a job and I need to go to college. And nobody would hire me except for one company, and that was Taco Bell. Taco Bell hired me. But it did a lot for me. It did a lot for me too, because it was like, man, I was so, how can I say, I was so aggressive, I was so motivated that I was like, I need to get something else. I need to get out of here. And, I didn't know what direction to head. I didn't know what to do. I signed up for college, went to Rio Hondo. I remember sat there in my class day 1, and I said, man, this is not for me. And I stood up and I left, and I never set foot in that school ever again. Once again, open, looking for something. And someone one day reached out to me and said, hey, you gotta come out, you gotta take a look at this opportunity, right? I'm like, okay, I'm hungry. What's up? What do you got? And I drive over to Anaheim, in California, Anaheim, to take a look at an opportunity that wasn't for me. So then I'm sitting down in the lobby, there was this pageant. So these hot girls walking by everywhere. So, I'm there and I'm having a good time and I'm talking to other people, and then there's this gentleman I meet by the name of Louis Bailey. I'll never forget Louis Bailey. He says, hey man, I'm a talent manager. You gotta call me. I wanna work with you. And keep in mind, I'm an inner city kid. I know nothing about this stuff. I didn't grow up in Hollywood, and I didn't grow up in that whole environment. So to me, it was completely new. And of course, I was a little skeptical. I'm like, okay. As you always hear that story. So it's like, I took his card, I sat it down. For 2 weeks, I didn't call him. Something just told me, call him. And I called him. Booked the meeting. I head over to Hollywood, 18 years old, naive, not knowing much about life, just trying to get started with life and get up and running. And I walk into his office, and there's actors walking around. There's pictures on the wall, phones are ringing. I'm like, man, this is legit. This is it. And I signed with Louis Bailey. And immediately the first thing he did, he took me over to LA Models. He called Paul, one of the bookers, and he says, yeah, bring him in. Louis is like, I got the new hot, Latin lover, you gotta meet him, blah, 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 right? He was obviously pitching me. And I walk in, and LA Models, boom, got me on board right away. They signed me up. I started working, doing print work. I'm like, man, this is awesome. Started getting some jobs, some gigs. Before you knew it, I'm like on the face at JCPenney and Mervyn's and all these crazy stores. And I'm like, I'd walk in the store, I'm like, man, that's my picture, I'd get calls from my family, I'm like, hey, I saw you, you're at Mervyn's, you're on some ad. I'm like, so it was really exciting. It was an exciting time for me because I had never experienced that. And I loved it because my mom has always been in fashion. So when I got put on fashion, my mom was so happy about that. And then eventually, the talent department says, hey, we want to meet Roger. Can you bring Roger over to it was LA Talent at the time. It was LA Models, one division, LA Talent, the other division. And Nick from LA Talent, he brought me on board. He says, I want to work with you. We wanted to start sending you out for commercials. And I said, okay. Once again, I'm following the lead, right? And I just started auditioning, and I started getting callbacks, and I started booking very, very fast. And I booked this one commercial. And I think that one was the one that did it for me. I booked a Burger King commercial. I shot it for 2 days. I was the lead. And man, I had a blast. It paid me a bunch of money for 2 days. And then the money was not stopped coming. It was just coming in, coming in, coming in, coming in. And I was like, whoa, I've never experienced anything like this in my life. I'm 18 years old. What do I do with all this, right? And that was the moment I said, I no longer want to do this. I want to act. I want to be an actor. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it so much. I love being in front of the camera. I love cooperating with another actor. I just loved it. It just got inside of me and it became part of me. And then from there, just started auditioning. Booking more commercials, TV shows. I ended up on USA High, The Parkers. I did Ladies Man, 6 Feet Under, a bunch of movies, Across the Line, which was like a movie of the week. It still gets played apparently. People tell me, fans tell me, I just watched your movie. I'm like, okay, where? I want to watch it too. I did Across the Line. Movie called Stage Ghost with Pamela Hasselhoff. I did a couple of awesome independent movies. I did very, very well. And then I get a call. They're like, hey, the Saban people want to meet you. They want to bring you in for this role called Power Rangers. I said, Power Rangers? I said, isn't that the Phenomena show that's going on right now, that it's like all over? Like, I'm watching these kids on TV and they can't even go to the mall. They can't even go to Disneyland. They're getting like mobbed at Universal City, like everywhere, like auditioning for that. And they're like, yeah, come on in. I'm like, okay. And I didn't really know much about Power Rangers at the time. Saw the show and I was like, oh, okay. And they brought me in. They brought me in. I auditioned. They brought me in again, and I believe I auditioned 7 times and I screenshot twice. By the time I had screenshot the second time, I was like, okay, I was like this, honestly, if you're gonna hire me, hire me. If not, it's all good, next, And then I get the call, and the call was, Roger, you're gonna be the next Green Turbo Ranger. And that moment for me was kind of surreal. I didn't really know what it meant. I for sure would never imagine we were gonna end up here where we're at now. Landed on the show and started working, kicking butt, traveling down to Valencia, and eventually I had to make a move, obviously, because from SouthGate to Valencia was a huge drive over Magic Mountain, and we were on Power Rangers, and life, this crazy, crazy life started with this whole phenomenon of Power Rangers. And from that point on, I had no idea we were gonna end up here. Like, I had no idea that 20 years later, it was gonna be what it is today, and continues to be what it is. So, when I first started auditioning for Power Rangers, it was just regular audition. It was just a regular audition, casting director, second callback producer, and then third callback, we were on set shooting, you know, sequences, and they switched me out with so many different people, and we all didn't know what was going on. They would pair me up with certain people, then pair me up with others, and you know, then certain ones you wouldn't see anymore, and then here comes another one, and I mean, it was they did a huge call. From what I understand at that time, they saw about 50,000 people, because remember, it was a phenomenon at the time, and we had some huge shoes to fill. They had an incredible following. So Saban did a huge casting call. 50,000 people auditioned for our role on Power Rangers. Why? Because they went to all the big cities, Los Angeles, New York, Miami, Chicago. They did this huge casting call, and it was pretty intense. It was pretty intense. So I didn't really meet Saban till kind of the later part of the audition, when I think we were already confirmed as Power Rangers. So first they hired TJ, myself, and Tracy. So Ashley, Justin, myself, and TJ first. And then we had no idea who the Pink Ranger was. Like, we were already casted, and it took weeks before they introduced us to Patty. I never screenshot with Patty. Patty was never part of the audition process with us. She showed up later for us, but yeah, it was an intense audition. We did martial arts, a lot of cool stuff. One of my friends was a sensei. My close friend was a big martial artist. It's so funny how life works, because right before Power Rangers, we were training, just to train. You know, we would go outside in the backyard, and he was my trainer, my coach, and he would train me and, you know, beat me up or whatever. So it was karate, backyard boogie style, nothing in the studio dojo, but I've always been very athletic. See, I know that I had some challenges in high school and whatnot, but what I didn't mention is I was playing soccer. You know, I've been a soccer player since I've been 5 years old. I started playing soccer. Parents took me all over town, and I'm really, really good at soccer. So soccer, I've always been a runner. I've always been super athletic. I've always loved martial arts. So all that, I believe, was preparation for what I had coming, which was Power Rangers. And only one entity knew that, and that's God, of course. But he was preparing me, you know. And so once I landed on Power Rangers, we had this thing called like Hell Week. You remember, like in high school, Hell Week? Well, we had it for 3 weeks. So the stuntmen used to love having the actor Power Rangers on those mats with us, and they used to beat us up. So they trained us. We got a lot of on-set training, and when we weren't shooting on hiatus, we were training. So we were shooting Power Rangers, we were training martial arts for sure. So that helped me out a lot. Well, first of all, the soccer thing was on my resume when it got submitted as, you know, an actor, and all my athletic stuff was on there. So they knew that I was a big soccer player. And I believe they just jumped on that. They just said, we can go off of this. They worked off of that. And it worked out perfectly fine, because those episodes that we shot while I was playing soccer at the beginning in the Turbo season were really cool, really popular. A lot of kids loved those, including myself. And I had a blast doing it, because I felt at home. I felt comfortable, you know, playing soccer on TV. It was a blast. So a lot of it was because of the production team, the writers, them putting it together, but then me taking it to the whole new level and bringing in what Roger Velasco brought into that character as a soccer player. But yeah, that was a cool part. This is a good question, because remember, I grew up in this inner city kid, like, around a certain type of environment. So the law association says that you become whoever you surround yourself with, right? You hang out with people that drink, you're gonna drink. If you hang out with people the way they talk, you're gonna talk like them. So what happened is when I got on the show, I had no idea I had an accent. But it wasn't a Latino accent. What it was just the environment, growing up in the hood, so to speak, and talking a certain way. So when I came on set, it was a challenge for me running through those lines with proper dialect, you know, and on the show, it was like, oh, Carlos got the accent, right? Carlos got the accent, but it wasn't like more like the Latino accent. It was more because I had grown up with certain kids and they were talking a certain way. So then I started talking a certain way. And when I came on the show, they actually got me a dialect coach to come on show and to work with me on my speech, because, you know, I was bringing in the slang into the set. Although it seemed like it was just the accent part of the Latino, my Latino background, but it was coming from, I didn't speak proper English. It took me a while to get that up and running. If you look at the episodes and you watch the first episodes, my accent's pretty heavy at the beginning. And then as space progresses, you know, I get a little bit better and better and better. You know, you'll see the difference from turbo, heavy accent, to space. The accent kind of drops. It's because I was getting better working with my dialect coach with all these exercises that she taught me that I still today practice. And guess what? It's funny because I teach those to people now. I teach those, you know, Peter Piper picked the pickle. Now I teach other people with, you know, what I'm doing with my business and whatnot. But yeah, that's what happened there. Man, I got along with all the Rangers. You know how you hear stories that the Rangers didn't get along, and that so-and-so doesn't talk to so-and-so, and that, you know, this person would not shoot on set if this person was on set. We didn't have any of that. Justin was like my little brother, 12-year-old on set. Oh man, we used to have a blast, Justin and I. We still do. Still go back and think about all those moments, but our relationship was super tight. Salman was my buddy. On set and off set, we used to hang out all the time. As a matter of fact, we literally purposely moved a block away from each other, and we would hang out like all the time. Tracy, super cool, close friend of mine as well. Well, you know, there's a little bit of a relationship with Tracy that people don't know. I know they think it was with Andros, but you know, Tracy and I had a thing going on while we were shooting on the show. And you know, we were just young kids, you know, dating, going out and whatnot. Everything was innocent. So that's the type of relationship I had with Tracy at the time. And Patty was just my buddy. Patty was one of my closest buddies. We used to do so much together. She was at my place all the time. So yeah, you know, we've had some great relationships. To this day, Justin and I are still buddies, peas and carrots. Salwin, same thing. We're still close friends. I still talk to Tracy. As a matter of fact, we do conventions together. Andros, Chris is also part of our group right now. We hang out. The only one we haven't seen is Patty. We haven't seen Patty in a while. But other than that, we're super tight. We're super tight, even to this day, which is pretty cool. Not every Ranger could say that. A lot of the Rangers have recently jumped on the whole convention roller coaster ride, right? They're all participating in the conventions, and I've done some conventions here and there, but Patty refuses to do them for her own reasons. She refuses to be part of these conventions that we do, the SuperCons and the Comic-Cons and the Morphicons. So since she's not, you know, really all for it, then, you know, we rarely see her. I do know that she's, you know, fighting fires. She's a firefighter nowadays, and she just recently became a firefighter. And I know for a fact, maybe, you know, I'm sure she was over at the Ventura fires. I still communicate with her once in a while on social media. Yeah, I did come in with longer hair already, and then as the show progressed and my hair got longer and the fans loved it, and they loved the hair, so then it just became part of Carlos, you know, and I just had long hair on the show. Why'd I cut my hair? You know, I did it for modeling. Yeah, I did it for model. I got a gig, and then a really good stylist got a hold of my hair, and he cut my hair. Matter of fact, I loved when my hair was cut that way, which is some of the shots that I have. But yeah, it was for a modeling job. I got it cut, and then after that, I just didn't grow it out. I had it just there. But it was for a job. It was for a gig, and the fans were like petrified. After a while, they still ask me to this day, "Grow your hair out. Grow your hair out. Where's your hair?" Well, it was just, I come onto the show, and then obviously I'm the new Green Ranger at the time, and Adam's kind of like mentoring me and whatnot. But at the time, Adam, Johnny Bosch, and Tracy were an item. They were in a relationship, and I didn't come in here wrecking relationships, but I came in here, and all of a sudden, I become the Green Ranger, and then Tracy apparently just breaks up with Adam, and then starts having interest in me. And then, I'm a young guy, I'm single, Tracy's obviously hot, pretty, we get along, we're friends already. So we just start dating, and we kept it hush hush, although the production knew. But Tracy and I for a while were an item together, and we were dating for some time. And obviously we're too young to get married and all that, so it didn't head into that direction. But yeah, it was, it was interesting. It was a little challenging for me from what it seemed like on the outside. I love Johnny. He's awesome. He did great by supporting me and, passing the baton over to me and all that. But it just kind of seemed like I come in, I become the Green Ranger, and then, I started dating the Green Ranger's girlfriend. That really was not my intention. It just happened that way. But yeah, it was just a little episode, and people, to this day, this is probably the first time that I go public with this, because fans, in their mind, think that the Red Ranger and the Yellow Ranger were the item, but it was really green and yellow. Yeah, but that's that. Honestly, reading the script was one thing, and shooting it was another. Like, two different situations. Like, I don't think I really understood what we were about to create until once we created it. That's actually one of my favorite episodes, when I get to work with Johnny Bosch and I'm having those struggles, which, by the way, I know they were on script, but deep down, humble kid coming from this rough background, not necessarily exposed to a lot of abundance growing up, and then all of a sudden being a Power Ranger. So I know it was like a script, but also I was having those challenges, mental challenges too. Like, wow, I'm a freaking Power Ranger. Me, my parents are first generation in this country. I grew up here, and then just being able to shoot that was amazing. The message was great. The fighting sequence was incredible with Johnny Bosch. I love that fighting sequence that we did with the blindfold and whatnot. A lot of the fighting was led by Johnny and the stuntmen and whatnot. But just the best thing about that episode is happening now. It was great shooting it. It was great being part of it because it was fun. But not knowing the impact that I was going to have, that to me is amazing. Because nowadays, fans come up to me and they're like, "Oh my God, Roger, that episode, you showed vulnerability. You showed a human being. You didn't show a Power Ranger. I was able to relate to that person. I was going through XYZ challenges myself, whether it was, whatever the situation was. And because I saw you overcome those challenges and ultimately do great, I've been able to create this. I'm now, third degree black belt instructor. Now I'm a teacher. Now I'm I'm in the military serving, and I get those stories all the time because of that episode. I think they really related a lot because, they portray us as superheroes and we're untouchable and we conquer the world and we have every answer. But just to show that vulnerability as a human being, I think was key. And that episode for sure sticks out a lot, definitely. The feeling that we always had on set, this is always, from the beginning, was I'm here today, I could be gone tomorrow. That's the way I've always came into this thing that way because that's the way it was. The reason why they brought us on board, what they don't know, people don't know, the fans don't know, is that the actors weren't, you know, being a certain way, and it wasn't really correlating with the production's vision. So then they said, hi, we're just gonna show these guys what's up, and we're gonna bring in some new guys, right? So we were the new guys. So at any moment we felt, okay, we're here today, we could be gone tomorrow, you know. So at the end of Turbo, we didn't know where it was gonna head. We didn't know what we were gonna do. We always know, like, is this it? Are we gonna continue? Are we starting a new season or whatnot? So when we were informed that we were starting a brand new season and that it was just gonna be Power Rangers in space, who doesn't wanna go to space, right? As a kid, who doesn't wanna go to space? I was like, what? We're gonna go to space? And then we're gonna get our own sets and this whole mega ship, and I get to wear black, and it's now I'm not sharing it with a different crew. Like, this is for me. Like, I love Turbo. Turbo's amazing and everything, but when people ask me what you like, you know, Turbo or space, well, of course it's space, because I didn't share it with anybody. It was ours. So it was just super exciting to know that we were gonna have all new sets, new stuff, and it was for us. And that not only that, but we were here, we were sticking around, and that we were not done at the moment. But yeah, it was really exciting at that time. And then once we had the mega ship, oh, dude, it was like the kid at Disneyland. Like, whoa, you know, the mega ship was incredible, and we saw they spent so much money, and I just felt like, wow, here we go, you know, time to rock it. See, we didn't know any of this stuff. We didn't know Power Rangers was coming to an end. We didn't know we were the last season. We had no idea. We were just shooting. We were going from episode to episode, episode to episode. It was a job for us. And we just came to work, ready to do our work. And we spent 12, 13, 14, 15, 16-hour days doing our job. But the transition from Turbo to space was awesome, because Countdown to Destruction was incredible, my favorite episodes. And honestly, we just took it day by day, you know. A lot of the guys, a lot of the Rangers, you know, they went and they got the big apartment and the big beautiful car and all that. And to me, I was just, it's Power Rangers, guys. It's like, you know what I mean? At the moment, it's not like, you know, it was non-union. Well, when Turbo was non-union, space became union a little bit. We weren't, you know, making a killing. I mean, for 18, 19-year-olds, we were doing quite well, of course. But to me, at the time, it was just a gig. I had no idea it was going to create what it created. And yes, Power Rangers in Space saved the franchise. Because of Power Rangers in Space, the franchise continued. And it is what it is today, because of the ratings that we picked up. The ratings were dropping at Mighty Morphin and Turbo. Turbo were already on its way down. And Space picked up the ratings, saved the franchise, and now it is what it is. You know, 25 years later, it's still going. They brought us back to Lost Galaxy because I think they were struggling with ratings too, and Power Rangers in Space had done so well. So that was pretty cool to come back and work with the Lost Galaxy guys. But I never knew that we would be here 25 years later, still, you know, talking about Power Rangers, wearing the Power Ranger suit, going to the conventions, traveling around the world with Power Rangers. It's been a complete blessing. That's the way I look at it. So we took it day by day, but fast forward 25 years later, I feel God gave me this opportunity for a reason, and we're gonna do whatever He wants us to do with it. After Power Rangers, continued working, started getting gigs. I was a booker. I used to book a lot. But in 2001, Screen Actors Guild went on strike, the writer's strike. So there was no jobs. Keep in mind, I had an income here, a lifestyle here. All of a sudden the income was here and my lifestyle was here. I had to pay bills. I have to move back to my mom's house. And at the time I redid her whole garage and stuff, you know, people do that, and I planted myself out and I sat there and I was like, I gotta do something. I started associating myself with my old friends that were still doing the old things and troubles and basically bad things. And I needed to do something. And I come to my friend, I'm like, I need work. And the only thing is that the type of work that we're doing is completely illegal. And, I got involved with them. And we used to do big numbers, and we used to bring in big numbers. And, for me it was work. For me it was like I needed to eat, I needed to pay bills, I needed to do what I had to do. And we were doing really, really well. And then within like 5-6 years of being involved there, my friends I started losing friends, being murdered, literally showing up on the news, like that's my friend. Friends getting kidnapped for hundreds of thousands of dollars and then being murdered. I'm 25 years old and I'm like, I need to get out of this, because if I don't get out of this, I'm either gonna end up dead or in jail, like the rest of my friends. So that's when I got out of that business, and I had to do what I had to do, and I went to go lock myself up in my mom's garage, and that's when I started looking for something. I needed to find something else. I'll never forget, I was shooting in a commercial, non-union commercial. I shouldn't have been shooting, and I'm talking to one of the actors. I'm like, hey bro, I gotta do something. What else do you do? Keep in mind, I've been working on TV only for years, like nothing else, only TV work. And I said, man, what are you doing? Like, I need to find something, like I need to do something else, like stuff's piling up. He says, oh, well, they're hiring at my job. You should come over and I'll introduce you to my boss. I said, I'm down, let's go, right? I'm a hustler, I work, I don't have a problem working. Little did I know that the person that I was gonna come meet and was gonna be my new boss was Jordan Belfort. The movie Wolf on Wall Street, that's Jordan Belfort. So Jordan Belfort was the person that launched my real estate career. I had a 15-year run in real estate, and I didn't know it was Jordan Belfort. I just came to work for this man. I'll never forget, Jericho National Mortgage on Wilshire, and they started training me as a mortgage loan officer, and it was Jordan Belfort. As a matter of fact, this is crazy. Jordan Belfort used to put me on his car, him and I together, and we used to drive on this freaking street right here, on this street, and we would door knock on all these businesses here. He taught me how to walk into businesses, door knock at CPA's office, attorney's office, and I got thrown out a lot of times. And he taught me how to walk in and generate business. And because of him, Jordan Belfort, my real estate career launched, and I started killing it. Started doing really, really well, really fast. And then it starts getting out, the rumor. So when I realized, oh my God, I'm working for Jordan Belfort, the gentleman from the movie, Boiler Room, this is crazy. Well, he got out eventually, and him and I were really close friends, and he started showing me his scrapbook with weekly $1 million checks. I saw the mansions, I saw the boats, I saw the yachts, I saw all that. He had a big book like this, and he just showed me everything, and we were like, wow, I'm working for Jordan. And guess what happened? A couple of months later, same thing happened. One day I'm coming in with my laptop to work, ready to close some deals, doors locked. Big notice. Yeah, FTC has shut us down. And we're like, what the hell? Where's my checks? The guys, they owe me money here. So I went downstairs to the lawyer. The lawyer used to cut our checks. I'm like, where's my checks? Long story short, I got my money and I parted. I said, hey, I'm out, and I parted. And then that launched my real estate career. After that, I had a lot of success in real estate. 15 years strong. I had a real estate office. I had mortgage loan officers everywhere. I was doing pretty well. I started making a lot of money, but my mindset hadn't changed. My mindset was still here, scarcity mindset. I was still thinking a certain way, but my income was here. So when your mindset is here and your income is here, you're still doing the same things I used to do before. So drinking and driving, abusing relationships, cheating on my girlfriend, doing drugs, alcohol, heavy drugs. And although I had a business, you would think, you know, I had a business, I had a beautiful house, son just born, a girlfriend, everything was fine, but I was still, my mindset, my mentality wasn't right. And I was, you know, doing bad things with money, drinking and driving, got multiple DUIs, and then a Power Ranger landed in jail. I had a designated driver, I was hammered. And then I got in a fight with my brother. Screw you, screw you, screw you. And of course I jumped in a car and I drove, right? Well, that night didn't go very well. Get pulled over. I jump out of my car. First thing I do, assume the position because I'm loaded. The guy starts searching me. The cops start searching me, throwing my stuff on the floor. So I used to carry this knife on me, huge knife here. And the cop didn't find it after searching me. So he takes me to jail, does the paperwork, and then he releases me to the people and the jailers or whatever, and he says, all right, follow that line. I walk out, I follow that line. On the other side, there's a bunch of deputies waiting for me. Search me, and guess what? They find the weapon. So now, he's resisting arrest, he's resisting arrest, he's got a knife, and he throws a knife to the other jailers. All the jailers come onto me, and they beat the crap out of me in jail. They broke my fingers, bloody face, they stripped me out of my clothes, and they threw me in a jail cell, only on my boxers, beat up. Till the next day, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, after sitting in a cold cell with no bench or no nothing, only a toilet, in my boxers, a police officer walks by and he says, what are you doing here? And I think he felt bad. He goes, I'm gonna get you out of here. And he comes and he gets me out. I finally get processed and I end up with all the murderers, all the bad people. I sat in a jail cell with a guy that was in there for murder, and he was happy about it. After 4 days of desperation and calling my house, get me out of here. I put up my house. After 4 days, I got out. First thing I did, I'm sitting on my couch. News is on. Oh, police brutality. I call that lawyer and say, I just got out of the same freaking jail. They beat me up too. They did this to me. They did that to me. They did. I gotta meet with you right away. Hangs up. I meet with the guy and start doing a lawsuit again. But at the time, the market had tanked. I had lost my business. I had lost multiple properties. I had a newborn. Was depressed, and I didn't have the financial stability to continue that lawsuit, and they made me sign a document that I can no longer sue them for that. And to this day, I suffer from that. You know, I used to be very angry, but you know, God rattled my cage. And he rattled my cage. I believe he did it on purpose. He did it for a reason, and he did it to wake me up, because he knows that I'm a good person. I just had been making bad decisions. I thought, you know, I was gonna be in there for a couple of weeks. I ended up being there a couple of months. I didn't want to be the pretty boy in jail. So I shaved my head, grew up the mustache, did the, you know, the whole look so they wouldn't mess with me in jail. And I got out. I'll never forget, 12 o'clock, midnight, got out. And then when I got out, I was just really depressed for a whole year. I was drinking, I was abusing alcohol. I felt like a loser. I didn't know what to do with my life. And in 2009, February, when I got my license back, I hit out the door and I went out and I decided that I was gonna change my life. And it was because of that decision that I made that a lot of blessings that I have today have manifested because of that decision. See, before, I wasn't ready for all the success that I'm having right now because my mindset wasn't right. God woke me up. I'm not proud of this stuff, my man. It's real and it's truth, and that's really, you know, part of what has shaped me for who I am today. I believe that I had to go through a lot of these lessons so I can be able to empower the people the way I empower people nowadays, because there's no way I was going to do it with that mindset. But yeah, it's been incredible. It's been a crazy life. See, most people think, oh, the Power Ranger, he's got a perfect life, right? But they don't know all this other stuff. And if I can empower someone with this message, even if it's just one person out there, and I change that person's life because they can relate to my life and the situation that I've had, then I feel that I've done something good, and turn the negative into a positive. I have a big vision that through media we're going to empower people globally through true stories. People ask me what kind of movies you're going to make. True stories based on true events. How can you appreciate the mountaintops if you've never experienced the valleys, right? And those were the valleys that I experienced of dark times in my life. So now I have two beautiful kids that I adore. Everything I do for them nowadays. Now what I do is, the reason why I do it is not for money or fame or anything like that. It's bigger than that. I want to be an example for my son, for my daughter. I don't want my kids to look at a magazine and be like, oh, there's an example for us here. We can be like this person. I want my kids one day to be like, that's Daddy. He was an example. I want to be like Daddy. He's my example. So everything that I do nowadays is for that. Yeah, everything else, if it comes, it comes. But I do it for my kids so that they can be empowered and they can one day do something big with their lives, and they can do it. And that's the whole message that I always carry for kids and people. And I always talk about kids because kids are dear to my life. I work with kids in Power Rangers, with the Make-A-Wish Foundation. I work with the Children's Hospital. And the Make-A-Wish Foundation for me was, man, it changed my life. It changed my life at the age of 18. It really changed me because these kids used to come on set and they looked perfectly normal. And they would say, hey, these kids are here from the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Keep in mind, I didn't know too much, inner city kid. I didn't know what the Make-A-Wish Foundation was. I just thought it was, oh, cool, it was a foundation. I'm gonna work with these kids, and they would come and we would play and I would build relationships. And then a week later, they'd be like, oh yes, remember such and such young boy, young girl that was here, your friend, yeah, of course. They would say they're no longer with us. I'm like, what do you mean? I didn't understand it. What do you mean they're no longer with us? Well, so-and-so was suffering for such situation, and now, he passed. It changed my life. It freaking changed my life forever. I didn't understand it. Sorry. It just changed my life. Like, I couldn't understand those concepts, and it impacted me at big time. And it set the tone for everything that I do now. Back in 1998, it set the tone for the love that I have, the passion that I have for kids. Because I believe that no kid should go through that. Every kid should be able to enjoy their childhood and one day have the ability to be a Power Ranger. And there was some tough moments. So anytime I get to work with kids, I'm all about it, all about it. Coming over to the Children's Hospital, signing autographs for the kids there, I'm all about that. Currently work with the Ronald McDonald House now. I lost a nephew there, 1-year-old nephew died in the Ronald McDonald House, and they did so much for us. And now I get to work with that foundation. Currently, right now, work with the Ronald McDonald House. I love working with them. So it just set the tone for my big vision of empowering kids and empowering people through media. And now, any moment that I get invited to go work with kids, you better believe it. I'm working with a gentleman right now by the name of Alec Mendoza that's been pulling me over to work in SouthGate. He asked me, hey, would you come do the Christmas parade? And I was like, yes, absolutely. Please, let's go, And, we did that Christmas parade, and it was a blast working with the kiddos and just watching their little faces light up, that's magic, man. That's if a lot of times kids come up to me, I'm like, oh my God, you did this for me, you empowered me, you changed my life. You guys have no idea what you guys have done for me. Like, I've gotten way more out of those relationships than they've ever gotten from me. Because that charges my batteries when, you know, someone's face lights up, kid's face lights up, you know. So anytime I get invited to work with kids, is for sure I'm all over it. I wanted to be part of an industry that, first of all, is recession proof, and not only that, it gives back. So I've been working with a big organization, a big company, and what we do is we empower people. Okay, we teach people how to generate an extra source of income, and we teach people how, and business owners, how to lower their bottom line, save money on their utilities and whatnot. But the most important part about all this is that it's tied to foundations. So, you know, we empower people on how to basically go from darkness to light. You know, a lot of people don't like their jobs, where they're working at, what they're doing, right? And we just bring them a different vehicle, and slowly we help them make that transition. And every time these customers pay their bills, whether it's business owners or residential property owners, we feed hungry kids in America, in North America. Through this foundation, we've provided over 4 million meals in the last 24 months. So I've developed a client base of hundreds, if not thousands, of customers that every time these customers pay their bills, whether it's a business owner or an individual, meals get cut out to an organization called Project Feeding Kids, and we play for food, which I've seen Scarlett Johansson promoting before. I was like, she's on board with us. This is awesome, you know? So we feed kids, and we're doing it on a global scale. We're not just doing it here in North America. We just launched in Mexico. We're doing wireless out there, and it's tied to a foundation out there where every time customers out there pay their bills, or business owners, kids in Mexico get fed. So it's all about giving back. When you can create a big full circle of abundance, that's when everything is just gonna flow. The company wins because the company grows. People win because they can generate some extra income, or eventually walk out from whatever they don't like, you know, whatever they're doing. Customers win because their bottom line gets lowered, right? Business owners, et cetera, and kids get fed. So it's a full circle of abundance. So I do these trainings weekly. I trained yesterday in front of about 100 people, and I love training mindset. I train on mindset because mindset is everything, and you can apply it in whatever you do. If you have the proper mindset, then you can conquer any goal, any task, anything. And so I train weekly. Wednesdays we meet, and then on Saturdays I do a weekly training for them. And pretty soon, you know, I'll be traveling over to Mexico doing the same trainings right now, and I think Colombia, Peru, and Chile. And we work with Ronald McDonald House too, the organization, so it's amazing. It's great to be part of that. I prefer I prefer black because once again, it was it was my very own season, so I prefer black. Let's rock it!